You have been to Nashville, or you have seen the photos, or you have heard the music drifting out of Broadway honky-tonks on a Saturday night, and you probably think you know what that city is all about. Guitar riffs and rhinestones and the ghost of Hank Williams in every bar. But here's something most people do not know, and it will change the way you think about your pantry, your candy dish, your morning coffee, and probably your last fast food order. Nashville did not just give the world country music. Nashville gave the world some of the most influential, most beloved, and most copied foods in American history. 10 of them, to be precise. Foods that were born in a specific kitchen, a specific factory, a specific moment of inspiration or accident or revenge, right there along the banks of the Cumberland River. By the time this video is done, you are going to look at your candy bar, your cup of coffee, your fried chicken, and your lunch plate with completely different eyes. Stay until the very end because the last entry on this list is the one that surprised people the most, and it has been sitting in your kitchen your entire life without you knowing where it actually came from. Let us start counting down. 10. The meat and three plate. Long before the concept of fast casual dining existed, before restaurant chains turned customization into a marketing strategy, before anyone used the phrase curated dining experience, Nashville was already doing something they called the meat and three, and they were doing it better than anyone else on earth. The concept sounds simple. You walk up to a steam table, you pick one meat from the day's selection, and you choose 3 side dishes from a rotating list of Southern classics. Fried chicken, roast beef, meatloaf, catfish, pork chop. Sides of turnip greens, macaroni and cheese, candied yams, black-eyed peas, cornbread, fried okra, creamed corn, sweet potatoes. You carry your tray to a table, usually a long communal one, and you eat shoulder to shoulder with whoever showed up that day. Construction workers and country music stars and nurses and students and politicians, all united by the same steam table. The origin of the meat and three tradition in Nashville is traced back to the employee cafeteria of the May hosiery mill in the 1930s, where workers were offered a daily plate of one meat and several vegetables for 25 cents, including bread. The name stuck. The format spread. Nashville became the undisputed capital of this way of eating, and local historians and food writers have claimed it as one of the city's greatest culinary contributions to American life. Hap Towns ran one of the earliest and most celebrated versions as a food cart starting in 1921. Sweats opened in 1954 and became a gathering place for the civil rights community and everyone else who wanted a generous, honest plate of food at a fair price. Arnold's Country Kitchen, opened since 1982, won a James Beard Foundation American Classics Award in 2009, the culinary world's highest honor for a restaurant that embodies the spirit of its community. Today, meat and three restaurants are experiencing a revival across the South and beyond, but Nashville invented the format, named it, and perfected it. Every time you walk into a cafeteria-style Southern restaurant and pile your tray high with the day's cooking, you are participating in something Nashville created in a hosiery mill nearly a century ago. 9. Nashville Hot Chicken. Nothing on this list starts with a better story. Thornton Prince was a man with a reputation. Women, late nights, wandering ways, a smile that could talk his way out of trouble and into it again. His girlfriend, one particular early morning after one too many late Saturday nights he could not account for, decided she had something to say, and she was going to say it through breakfast. She fried him chicken. She added cayenne pepper. Then she added more. Then she reached for the hottest ingredients she could find in that kitchen, and she did not hold back, because she was not cooking for pleasure. She was cooking for revenge. She put that plate in front of Thornton Prince and waited for the reaction she had planned. He took a bite. His eyes went wide. He took another bite. And then, in one of the great backfires in culinary history, Thornton Prince looked up and said he loved it. He shared the recipe with his brothers. By the mid-1930s, they had refined the technique, perfected the balance of heat and fat and cayenne paste, and opened the BBQ Chicken Shack on Jefferson Street in Nashville's historically black community. The dish would later become known as Prince's Hot Chicken, and the restaurant would become Prince's Hot Chicken Shack. Still operating today, still using a recipe that has not changed in nearly 90 years. What makes Nashville hot chicken different from every other spicy fried chicken in the world is the paste. It is not a sauce applied after cooking, and it is not simply seasoned flour. It is a mixture of lard and cayenne pepper, heated into a thick, deeply pigmented paste that gets applied directly to the finished fried chicken with a spoon in a gloved hand, pressed into the skin, soaking into the crust. The result is a reddish, almost violent-looking piece of chicken that delivers heat in waves, that builds as you eat, that lingers on your lips and your throat long after the last bite. Served on white bread, topped with pickle chips, it became a late-night staple in Nashville's African-American community for decades before the rest of the city discovered it. When the world finally caught up, the explosion was swift and total. KFC launched a Nashville hot chicken product in 2016 after a Pittsburgh trial run they called the most successful product testing in the company's recent history. Hattie B's became a national chain. Dave's Hot Chicken spread across the country. Today you can find something called Nashville Hot on menus from Maine to California to London. More than 12,000 people attended the Music City Hot Chicken Festival in 2014. The James Beard Foundation gave Prince's Chicken Shack an American Classic Award. And the woman who started it all, the one who reached for that cayenne and kept reaching, she never got a trophy. But she changed American food forever. 8. Goo Goo Cluster. In 1912, inside a factory at Clark and First Avenue in downtown Nashville, a man named Howell Campbell was working with his plant supervisor Porter Moore over a copper kettle. And they were doing something that had never been done before in American candy manufacturing. Until that moment, candy bars were single-ingredient affairs. A chocolate bar was chocolate. A caramel was caramel. A taffy was taffy. Nobody had ever combined multiple components into a single retail confection and sold it as one product. Campbell and Moore took caramel, marshmallow nougat, fresh roasted peanuts, and real milk chocolate, and they combined them into a single mound-shaped piece, and America's first combination candy bar was born. The shape itself was unconventional. Round, uneven, lumpy, where the peanuts pressed against the chocolate shell. It resisted the standard rectangular and square packaging of the day, which made it harder to wrap by hand and harder to distribute. But the taste was impossible to argue with. Campbell needed a name. He was riding the streetcar to work one morning, telling fellow passengers about this new candy he had created and his struggle to name it, when a schoolteacher on that same car asked him about his young son. Campbell said his boy had just spoken his first words, just saying "goo goo" over and over the way babies do. The teacher looked at him and said, "That is what you should call your candy." The first slogan arrived almost immediately. So good, they will ask for it from birth. During the 1920s and 30s, Standard Candy Company, the company Campbell had built, advertised Goo Goo Clusters as a nourishing lunch for a nickel, and the candy became a sponsor of the Grand Ole Opry radio broadcasts, cementing its place in Nashville's identity. Today, the Goo Goo shop on Lower Broadway is part retail store, part museum, part chocolate kitchen, where visitors can make their own combination candy bar and watch premium clusters being hand-dipped behind glass. Over 75,000 clusters are made every single day. Dolly Parton had them flown to her on a movie set. The original recipe has not changed since 1912. And the first combination candy bar in American history started in a Nashville copper kettle because a candy maker could not name his invention, and a schoolteacher on a streetcar helped him out. 7. Maxwell House Coffee. You have probably said the phrase without thinking about it. Good to the last drop. You have seen those words on a coffee can, on a diner menu, on a grocery store shelf. That slogan and the brand that carries it has Nashville written all over its origin story, and most people who drink it every morning have no idea. In 1884, a man named Joel Wousley Cheek moved to Nashville from Kentucky to seek his fortune. He found work as a traveling wholesale grocer and met a British coffee broker named Roger Noley Smith, a man said to be able to identify the origin country of any coffee simply by smelling the green beans. Together, over the next several years, they experimented with blends, testing combinations of beans, adjusting roast profiles, searching for something that would stand apart. By 1892, they had a blend they believed in. Cheek went to the food buyer of the Maxwell House Hotel, the grandest hotel in Nashville at the time. 5 stories, 240 rooms, steam heat and gas lighting, built by Colonel John Overton and named for his wife Harriet Maxwell Overton. He offered 20 pounds of his blend for free. Within days, the coffee was gone. The hotel tried to go back to its usual brand. The complaints from guests were immediate and loud. The hotel committed to buying Cheek's blend exclusively. After 6 months, they agreed to let him name his coffee after his first major customer. Maxwell House Coffee was born. Cheek left his job as a coffee broker, formed the Nashville Coffee and Manufacturing Company, and began building what would become one of the most recognizable brands in American history. For nearly 100 years until the late 1980s, Maxwell House was the top-selling coffee brand in the United States. 7 presidents stayed at the Maxwell House Hotel over its history. President Theodore Roosevelt visited in 1907 and reportedly declared the coffee good to the last drop. General Foods later used that phrase as the brand's official slogan, printed on every can. The hotel itself burned down on Christmas night 1961 and was never rebuilt. But the coffee that took its name is still being poured into cups in kitchens across the country every single morning. And it started in Nashville because one determined grocer believed he had a perfect blend and walked into the right hotel at the right moment. 6. Nashville Fruit Tea. Every city has its unofficial drink. New York has the egg cream. New Orleans has the Sazerac. Nashville has something that tourists rarely order because they do not know it exists and locals take entirely for granted. A beverage that has been on restaurant menus in Music City for at least half a century and possibly longer. And its exact origin remains one of the pleasantly unresolved mysteries of Nashville food history. Nashville fruit tea is not sweet tea with fruit syrup poured in. It is a specifically constructed punch-style beverage that blends brewed sweet tea with orange juice, lemon juice, pineapple juice, and a touch of cinnamon, sometimes with ginger ale folded in for lightness. The result is something that should not work on paper and is completely irresistible in a glass. Tangy and sweet and cold and slightly floral, with the cinnamon giving it just enough warmth to surprise you. No single person has claimed credit for inventing it. No founding recipe has been authenticated. What is known is that it has been associated with Nashville's lunch culture, particularly with the ladies' who lunch tradition of the mid-20th century, served at the kind of tea room adjacent establishments where comfort and charm mattered as much as the food itself. Today it appears on menus at places like the Loveless Cafe, Frothy Monkey, Puffy Muffin, and Calypso Cafe, each with their own proportions, their own slight variations, their own loyal following who will tell you their version is the definitive one. The proportions vary from kitchen to kitchen, which is exactly how a truly local recipe behaves. Nobody owns it. Everybody makes it their own way, and every glass of it tastes unmistakably like Nashville in the summer. 5. The Bownut. There are foods that get invented out of necessity, and there are foods that get invented out of sheer creative curiosity. And then there are foods that get invented because someone looked at a perfectly good piece of biscuit dough and thought, what if instead of baking this, we dropped it into hot peanut oil and then covered it in something sweet? Nashville gave the world that particular thought experiment made real, and they called it a Bownut. The concept is exactly what it sounds like, a biscuit donut. Biscuit dough cut into donut shapes and fried in peanut oil until the exterior is golden and the interior is soft and pillowy in the way that a good biscuit is soft and pillowy, which is to say without apology and without restraint. Once out of the oil, they get glazed or topped or filled. Vanilla cream, blueberry sauce, mascarpone, lemon curd, seasonal fruit combinations. The Bownut became a signature item at Biscuit Love, a Nashville restaurant that started as a food truck and grew into one of the city's most celebrated brunch destinations. The dish captures something essential about Nashville's food identity, the willingness to take a deeply Southern foundation. The biscuit is as Southern as it gets, and apply a playful, inventive energy to it without losing the soul of the original. The The Bownut went from a food truck novelty to a dish that food writers began citing as evidence of Nashville's emergence as a serious culinary destination. It has been featured in national food publications and copied by restaurants across the country. But it started here, in a city that has always known its way around biscuit dough. And it started because someone decided that frying was a better answer than baking on that particular morning. 4. Tennessee whiskey and the Lincoln County process. You know the name Jack Daniels. You have seen the square black bottle. You may have had it in a glass with ice on a Saturday night. But what you may not know is that the whiskey inside that bottle, and every other bottle of Tennessee whiskey made in the tradition Jack Daniel established, is produced using a process that was developed and perfected in Middle Tennessee, and exists nowhere else in the world as a defining characteristic of a regional spirit. It is called the Lincoln County process, and it is what separates Tennessee whiskey from bourbon, even though both are made from a corn-heavy grain mash and aged in charred new oak barrels in ways that are otherwise nearly identical. The Lincoln County process involves filtering the freshly distilled spirit through 10 feet of sugar maple charcoal before it ever goes into a barrel. This process, called mellowing by the distillers who practice it, strips out harshness and certain congeners from the raw distillate, producing a smoother, rounder base spirit that then takes on character during barrel aging. The result is a whiskey with a distinctive profile, slightly sweeter, slightly softer, with a faint smokiness from the charcoal filtration that no other production method replicates. Jack Daniel's distillery in Lynchburg became operational in 1866, making it the oldest registered distillery in the United States. Nashville and the surrounding Middle Tennessee region became the cultural and commercial center of Tennessee whiskey production, with the spirit woven into the social and culinary fabric of the city in ways that go well beyond drinking it straight. Tennessee whiskey became a cooking ingredient, a cocktail foundation, a regional identifier, a gift and a souvenir, and a point of pride. When you pour Tennessee whiskey into a glass, you are pouring a product of a specific process invented in a specific geography, and that geography runs directly through Nashville. 3. The fried bologna sandwich. There are cities in America where the fried bologna sandwich is a known quantity, a regional staple that locals grow up eating and never think to explain because it requires no explanation. Nashville is one of those cities, and it has been one of those cities for generations. And somewhere along the way, the fried bologna sandwich went from a Depression-era solution to a celebrated dish that shows up on upscale menus alongside craft cocktails and elevated Southern cuisine. The concept begins with a thick-cut slice of bologna, not the thin deli variety, but a cut from a whole chub, usually a ½ to 3/4 of an inch thick, with a slash cut through the casing so it does not curl when it hits the hot skillet. That slice goes into a cast iron pan or onto a flat-topped griddle and stays there until the edges caramelize and brown, and the flat face develops a char that concentrates the flavor and changes the texture entirely from the original. It comes out of the pan with a crust on one side and a yielding, almost creamy interior, and it goes onto white bread with yellow mustard, and sometimes a slice of American cheese and sometimes a fried egg. And it becomes something that transcends its humble origin and delivers a satisfaction that far more expensive sandwiches rarely achieve. In Nashville, the fried bologna sandwich has deep roots in working-class lunch culture. Prince's Hot Chicken Shack and other neighborhood institutions have served versions of it for decades. More recently, restaurants like Biscuit Love and various East Nashville spots began featuring elevated interpretations, adding house-made condiments and artisan bread and creative toppings, but never losing the essential character of the thing, which is that it is honest and it is filling and it is deeply, permanently Nashville. The James Beard Foundation has cited the fried bologna sandwich as a Southern culinary tradition worth documenting and celebrating. Nashville did not invent bologna, but Nashville made frying it in cast iron and serving it on white bread into an art form worth traveling for. 2. The Grand Ole Opry concession stand. Foods. The Grand Ole Opry began broadcasting from the Ryman Auditorium in 1927 and became the longest-running radio broadcast in American history. Audiences who filled those wooden pews were hungry, and the concession culture around the broadcast shaped what Nashville expected from food at a gathering. Cornbread, pinto beans and ham, biscuits, pork rinds, and the goo goo cluster became the Opry's signature sponsored snack for decades, so thoroughly connected to the broadcast that many listeners assumed the name stood for Grand Ole Opry. It did not. But the partnership was formative. The Opry created a communal occasion around which Nashville food culture organized itself, and the foods that thrived became templates for Southern event eating replicated everywhere. 1. Maxwell House and the phrase that outlasted the hotel. The final spot belongs to 5 words a Nashville-born brand made immortal: good to the last drop. Whether President Theodore Roosevelt said those exact words during his 1907 visit to the Maxwell House Hotel has been questioned. General Foods acknowledged the slogan was shaped by the company's own president, but the moment it was attached to, a Nashville-made coffee declared exceptional in the grandest hotel in a city that rebuilt itself from war into a cultural force. That moment was real. The phrase entered American daily life in 1915 and never left. It lives on more kitchen shelves and in more morning routines across more decades than almost any phrase in the language of food. Nashville gave the world a coffee worth saying it about. Check your kitchen. You are probably holding something this city invented. Drop a comment with which entry surprised you most. Subscribe and never miss a deep dive into the food stories right in plain sight. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay hungry, and keep rising.